Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. We are here with our second part of distribution and volume of distribution of drugs. Let us have a quick review what we did in our previous lecture. So previously we discussed about definition of distribution, volume of distribution, redistribution, the formula of volume of distribution and its units to calculate, and why VD is not a true volume. It is called a hypothetical or an apparent volume. What are the characteristics of plasma protein bound drugs? And now we'll move on to the examples of the drugs which have high affinity for plasma proteins, and they are the likely candidates for drug interactions. So here are a few examples of the drug which are having high affinity for plasma protein: phenytoin, tolbutamide, propranolol, phenylbutazone, and warfarin. So you are not familiar with these names yet, but inshallah with progress of the course of your work, we'll be covering each and every aspect of the drug in detail. So but for this point you have to memorize the names of the drugs. So phenytoin is basically an anti-epileptic drug, tolbutamide is drug for diabetes, and propranolol is a very important prototype beta blocker. Phenylbutazone is an NSAID, just told you earlier, and warfarin, I hope you all know. Okay, warfarin is an oral anticoagulant. Okay. So this is another example to show which drugs bind to various types of plasma proteins. You do not have to memorize whole of the names, just one or two examples of albumin and alpha-1 acid glycoprotein. So the majority of the drugs which are binding to albumin are belonging to the CNS, like barbiturates and benzodiazepines. These are belonging to the group of sedative hypnotics. Then NSAIDs, then valproic and phenytoin. These are also the drugs acting on the CNS. These are anti-epileptic drugs for epilepsy, and few antibiotics. And the drugs which are binding to alpha-1 acid glycoprotein are beta blockers and few of the local anesthetics. So now at this stage, it is not necessary to memorize each and every name, but by the end of the session, of course, you'll be master of each and every drug. So another important characteristic about storage of the drugs in the tissue is certain drugs have selective preference for certain tissues apart from plasma proteins. For example, these drugs, they act as cellular reservoir. Chloroquine is a very important drug. I hope you are familiar with the name, as it is the drug used for the treatment of malaria. It has high affinity to bind to liver and retina. Arsenic, it gets accumulated in the keratinous tissue, and bone also acts as a reservoir. So these are the examples of the drug which have distribution in various organs and tissues. So the drugs which get bind to the bone are like calcium, tetracyclines in growing bone, and heavy metals like lead and radium. Tetracycline, as I told you earlier, is to be given in caution with children under 12 years of age, especially why? Although abhi ye aap aage padhoge when you'll be covering about the antibiotics, but you should know that tetracyclines, they should not be given under 12 because they get accumulated in the growing bones and the teeth. So 12 साल से कम जितने बच्चे होंगे उसमें हम ये एंटीबायोटिक नहीं देंगे. So if it gets accumulated, it forms insoluble complexes, so the growth would be stunted and the teeth deformities will occur. So it's a very common question which is asked from this chapter of antibiotics. Fat also acts as a reservoir, and lipid soluble substances in body fats, for example thiopentone sodium, benzodiazepines, and some environmental contaminants, they get accumulated in the body fats. And the characteristic is that the more the lipid soluble, the more it would be accumulated in the body fat. And thiopentone is a anesthetic which is given by intravenous route and is a high lipid soluble, and it goes rapidly into the CNS, and it's ultra short acting. So what I told you earlier about definition redistribution, that whenever whenever a drug is given, it gets firstly to which areas of the body? Highly vascularized areas like the brain, okay, heart, kidney, and then to the less vascularized area. So thiopentone is a very highly lipid soluble drug. So it goes into the CNS, and since its action was needed in the CNS, so when it gets redistributed from its site, target site, so it goes into less vascularized area, so its action is terminated because whole of the drug was utilized there because it was needed there in the CNS because it acts as a general anesthetic. So anesthetics का effect कहाँ पे है? General anesthetics का, of course, it's in the CNS. So that is why we say that thiopentone is having a very short half-life. We'll be discussing about the half-life in the upcoming lectures as well. Then saturation of stores and the component. Lipid-soluble substances are deposited in the body fat depots. As I told you, these are in equilibrium with free drugs. So whenever there is a need in the body for that particular drug, so they get desaturated from its particular binding site or the deposits, and they are available in the body to show its action. So students, these are a list of a few drugs which have a high affinity for various organs. Like I told you earlier, digoxin, which is the drug given for the treatment of cardiac failure. It's a cardiac glycoside. It has high binding affinity to the skeletal muscles, heart, as you can see in the kidneys. All right. So these drugs have high volume of distribution. Okay. Then chloroquine, it has got high binding to the liver and also to the kidney. And iodine containing drugs, they bind to the thyroid. Then few drugs, they have high affinity for the brain, for the retina, for the iris, and specifically very important, tetracyclines have high affinity for bones and teeth because they bind to the various divalent cations like calcium, magnesium, and get accumulated into bones and teeth, and especially in that is troublesome for children. All right. Distribution to the brain. It's very unique. It has a blood-brain barrier and blood-CSF barrier. And lipid-soluble non-ionized drugs can cross the blood-brain barrier because it's the rule of thumb. The more the drug is lipid-soluble, the more it is going to cross the barriers, the more it is going to be absorbed, the more it is going to be distributed in the body. All right? And whereas the lipid insoluble drugs, which are charged, which are ionized, which are polar, which are water soluble, they cannot cross the blood-brain barrier. But what happens at inflammation, there is increased permeability of the blood-brain barrier. All right. And blood-brain barrier is deficient at the CTC. You all know that. So this is the structure of the usual capillary in the body, which is having basement membrane and intracellular pores, whereas in the brain capillaries, there are the tight junctions. All right. So only lipid soluble drugs can pass through it, through the tight junctions. So in the intercellular pores, the drugs can also pass through because these are not the tight junctions, whereas over in the brain capillaries, they are the tight junctions, and there is also another layer which is the glial cell process or the choroidal epithelium. So another important aspect of distribution is placental barrier. So lipid soluble drugs can pass into the fetus through this diffusion, and that is why it is very important, especially in the first trimester of pregnancy, that one should give the drug to the patient only if very much indicated. If its advantages are more than the disadvantage, then it is recommended, because the first trimester is the period in which there is formation of the various organs and of the baby. So you need to be very careful, because if the drug is not safe for the baby, it may cause congenital malformations in the neonate. So, and this thing is called teratogenicity. I hope you have memorized this in the definition. So teratogens are those drugs which cause the placental barrier and cause fetal anomalies in the newborn. All right. So since the blood-brain barrier in the fetus is not much developed, so and metabolic enzymes are also not mature to metabolize the drug. So if you're given a drug to the mother, so it's going to cross the placental barrier and going to affect the baby, and especially in the first trimester. And these drugs are called teratogens. I just told you. Thalidomide used to produce seal nymphs, which is called phacomalia. You must have studied this terminology or this term in your embryology. All right. The newborn babies were born with the limbs which are seem to be that of the seals. Similarly, few drugs may cause very known teratogenic effects like morphine, which is an opioid, causes fetal asphyxia. Diazepam, which is a benzodiazepine, it's a sedative hypnotic drug. It may cause hypothermia and hypotonia in the newborn. And carbimazole is a drug which is given for the treatment of thyroid, so it can cause fetal goiter. All right, this is just 0.1% of the teratogenic effects of the drug. So I'll just giving you an outline, because when you'll be discussing about each and every drug, each and every chapter, that would be more easy and it would be a lot of repetition, so you'd be able to memorize it with much better capacity. So basically, we have covered distribution, factors affecting distribution, why VD is in hypothetical volume, examples of the drug which are highly plasma protein bound, examples of the drug which are teratogenic, and volume of distribution. How do we define it? Because when you are asked to define volume of distribution, the students just give the formula that it is D divided by Cp. That is its formula. So volume of distribution is the volume of the fluid necessary to contain all the drug in the body at the same concentration as in the blood or plasma, considering the body as a whole one single compartment. ठीक है? As we discussed earlier कि different body compartments हैं, प्लाज्मा में अगर रह जाएगी ड्रग इट्स 4 लीटर, अगर एक्स्ट्रा सेलुलर में चलेगी तो इतनी हो जाएगी, टोटल बॉडी वाटर होगी तो 42 हो जाएगी. ठीक है, तो this is the way you define volume of distribution. And I hope you all know कि it's a hypothetical volume and why. You have given the assignment as well. This is its formula: total amount of the drug in the body. For example, 1000 milligram was given and the target achieved in the plasma was 50. So it is D over Cp, that is 20 liters. So VD is total dose administered divided by plasma concentration, also denoted as C or Cp. There are few examples of the drug which get accumulated in the total body water, for example, ethanol, and few drugs like which remains in the ECF are like gentamicin, which is an antibiotic, and those drugs which are highly plasma protein bound drugs, for example, heparin. All right. Few drugs like DDT, insecticides, they have a high affinity to get deposited in the fat, in the bone. There are, I told you earlier, there are tetracyclines, lead and fluoride. So you have to memorize a few examples. If you are asked in the SAQ to give examples of the drug with high VD or low VD, so you should know some example. Heparin has a very low volume of distribution of about only 5 liters per kg. Aspirin of 11 and digoxin varies from 420 to 700 liters. And chloroquine has a massive high volume of distribution, about 13,000. And remember one thing, students, at this point I'm just going to give a brief flicker about loading dose. Since you have not, you will be covering it in upcoming lectures, but जो ये drugs हैं which have got a very high volume of distribution, ठीक है? If you need that drug in the plasma or in the circulation so that it can show its effect achieve a target concentration, अगर आप जितनी भी drug दे रहे हो, for example एक therapeutic dose दे रहे हो, and it gets accumulated in the tissues and organs, so there is a very little less left to show its pharmacological action. ठीक है, तो for those cases, those drugs which have a high volume of distribution, it's a very high volume of distribution, you need to give a loading dose, and loading dose means that together initially you give a large dose so that even if the drug gets bound to the various tissues and organs, still there is much more available to show its systemic effect. ठीक है, this question was previously asked in 2-3 years back, that what is the relationship of volume of distribution to the loading dose. So we can define it that those drugs which have a high VD, we need to give a loading dose. All right. So what is the clinical significance of distribution? Of course, we know that those drugs which are distributed in the tissues, they have a large volume of distribution. They stay in the body for longer time. They have a long duration of action, and they may cause local toxicity. For example, tetracyclines, as I told you, they get accumulated in bones and teeth. So they may cause the toxicity in that particular organ. And these drugs which have a high VD, they are not easily removed if the toxicity occurs. All right. And if there is concomitant pathological state like cardiac failure or uremia or cirrhosis of liver, it can also alter the volume of distribution. All right. So the choice of drug depends upon the distribution of a drug as well. For example, if we need to give a drug which has to show its action on the CNS, we have to give a drug which is lipid soluble, since it has to cross the blood-brain barrier. All right. And of course, we all know that whenever there is inflammation of the meninges, then insoluble drugs, lipid insoluble drugs, can also cross this barrier. All right. So P-glycoproteins, I just told you, these are efflux proteins which pump or kick out the drug out of the body because they do not allow them to enter inside the cell, do not show its action. But we give P-glycoprotein inhibitors, so they can cause increase the excess of drug to the certain body compartment. And in the pregnancy, you have to be very careful as a physician to prescribe a drug in lactation as well, because there is a placental membrane barrier and there is a breast milk barrier as well. And in pregnancy, the VD is increased due to ECF. So, of course, the VD of the various drugs is also going to be altered. So that was all about the clinical significance of distribution. And in the next lecture, I will be discussing about few clinical scenarios and MCQs related to absorption and distribution, and would be having a quick recap of what we have done in the previous two lectures. So with that, I would like you to write down the characteristics of plasma protein bound drugs in your notebooks and submit it to your respective WhatsApp group. Thank you very much, and Allah Hafiz.